Okay, I think we can get started. My name is Carol Iman, and I'm the Nashua Public Library's Outreach and Marketing Librarian. I want to tell you about one other upcoming library event. We're having our Beyond the Book event on Sunday, October 17th. This event is a virtual visit with the library's 2021 One City, One Book author, Ya Jessie. She'll be talking about her first novel, Homegoing, which is a story of two half-sisters born in Ghana in the 1700s. One of them marries an English colonial and lives a life of luxury in his castle. The other one is captured in a tribal war and shipped off to America and sold into slavery. So the book follows the lives of these two women and of 8 generations of their descendants, from Africa to Mississippi and Harlem and through the Civil War and the Great Migration. So this event is free and it's open to all, whether you live in Nashua or wherever you live. I'll put a link to registration in the chat tonight. Our program is being recorded, and either later tonight or tomorrow, I will send you a link to watch it or to share with your friends who couldn't make it tonight. Our program tonight is co-sponsored by Toadstool Books of Nashua, and we will put in some information in the chat about buying Hank's books from Toadstool, and she has some prizes going out to you guys tonight too. So our guest tonight is the USA Today best-selling author of 13 novels of suspense. She has also won multiple prestigious awards for her crime fiction, including 5 Agathas, 4 Anthonys, and the coveted Mary Higgins Clark Award. She's also the on-air investigative reporter for Boston's WHDH-TV and has won 37 Emmys, 14 Edward R. Murrow Awards, and dozens of other honors for her groundbreaking journalism. National book reviews have called Hank a master at crafting suspenseful mysteries and a superb and gifted storyteller. Hank's novels have been named Best Thrillers of the Year by Library Journal, New York Post, BookBub, Pop Sugar, Real Simple Magazine, and others. Her 2020 thriller is The First to Lie. It garnered a starred review from Publishers Weekly and is a nominee for the Anthony Award for Best Novel and the iconic Mary Higgins Clark Award. Her newest book is Her Perfect Life, a chilling psychological standalone about fame, family, and revenge. It received starred reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly, which called it a superlative thriller. Please join me in welcoming Hank Phillippi Ryan.
Thank you so much, Carol. This is great. And it is so, I love applause. You're applauding before you even hear anything, right? That's very optimistic of you. Thank you so much for coming here this evening. And you all know about Zoom, right? You know, you can look at gallery view. If you hover over in the upper right and you look at view, you can do the gallery view and you can see us all like a checkerboard, or you can do speaker view and see just me. I'm keeping it in the gallery view because I love seeing you all and I love being here with you all. Very, very quickly, as Carol was alluding to, I'm so pleased to be here with Toadstool Bookshop. And, you know, we love libraries and we love independent bookstores, and we love, all of us authors love when they work together. So here's my scheme for this evening, and I put it in the chat. One lucky person tonight, and if I look over here, I'm looking at the chat to see what you all are saying. First of all, everyone who buys Her Perfect Life from Toadstool Books tonight through the link or from an email with me afterward, everyone who buys Her Perfect Life tonight, a signed copy you can get or a personally signed copy will get from me a free paperback book. It may be The Other Woman, it may be one of the Charlotte McNally series, it may be one of the Jane Ryland series, it may be Trust Me, it may be The First to Lie, who knows, but you will get a free paperback book from me signed if you buy Her Perfect Life tonight. And if you, one lucky person who buys Her Perfect Life tonight from Toadstool Books will get all of my other books, all my entire backlist. So if you just take a little risk and buy from Toadstool tonight, somebody will win all of my entire backlist. Also, someone here tonight, whether they buy a book or not, will get an autographed first edition of The First to Lie, just because you are fabulous and just because you are here tonight. And I am so pleased to see you. So we will pick winners as it gets to the end of the event, or possibly we will just email you. I'm not sure whether we can handle all those logistics. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you have problems ordering, I put my email in the chat, and you just email me and put order your book in the header, and I will help you handle that. And if you can remember all of that, you're a better person than I am, and it is all in the chat. So we welcome you here tonight, and thank you so much to Nashua Public Library and to Toadstool for this. So now all of the housekeeping is out of the way, and I promised you that I am going to do something new tonight, and you are all here to experiment with me on this new way of doing an author chat. And here's where this came from. Her Perfect Life has been out for 2 weeks. And did I tell you it's already in a second printing? It's in a second printing. So that means that the first editions that are in bookstores now, once those are gone, those are gone. And there will be no more first editions of Her Perfect Life, just saying. Anyway, so I've been on the road on Hank on Tour for about 2 weeks now. And one of the joys, as you know, of being on book tour is answering reader questions, answering all of your questions. And, you know, we as authors, we can yammer all night. We're used to that. But the joy of writing a book comes really from connecting with the people who are reading the book or who are curious about the book. And I've gotten so many questions, and I put them all in this dish. I put the questions that I've gotten from readers in events like this in this dish, and I'm just going to pull them out one at a time and see what we get. Also, if you have a question, do put it in the chat, because when I look over here, I'm looking at your comments, and I see that Terry's saying hi, Claudia's saying hi, Jay is saying, Her Perfect Life is the perfect book. Jay, thank you. And so anyway, this is why it's so much fun I'm going to take your questions, and let's just see where we go from that. Quickly, the first question is always, tell us a little bit about your book, and I will do that quickly. When someone asked me to describe Her Perfect Life in 5 words, I said sisters, betrayal, guilt, fame, and revenge. Sisters, betrayal, guilt, fame, and revenge. So think of all the stories that could engender, those roiling emotions that are so destructive. And that's what went into Her Perfect Life. So if I tell you Her Perfect Life in 5 phrases, that would be a beloved reporter with a deep, dark secret, a missing college student, and that is not the secret, an anonymous source, a clandestine, passionate weekend in Aspen, and a child's little pink suitcase that is surprisingly empty. So bottom line, Her Perfect Life stars Lily Atwood, a beloved television reporter. She's so perfect that her fans have given her a hashtag Perfect Lily. Everybody knows Lily Atwood, and that may be her biggest problem, because Lily Atwood has fame, she has fortune, she has Emmys, she's the single mom to an adorable 7-year-old daughter, and she also has one deep, dark secret. And she's worried that someone will tell it. And if they do, if they tell that secret, that will flat out ruin Lily's life and her career and her family, and her life will essentially be over. But Lily is always in the spotlight, and she begins to wonder, how do you keep a secret when you're always in the spotlight? And maybe the spotlight is the most dangerous place of all. So bottom line, 2 smart women face off in a high-stakes psychological cat and mouse game to prove their truth about a devastating childhood betrayal. But which character is the cat and which character is the mouse? And that is Her her perfect life. And that, bottom line, that's about all I can tell you about it, right? Because it's a novel of suspense. And if I tell anything more, and those of you who have read it will know that I would give something away, and I do not want to do that. So let's see what questions you have. Some of you have handed them. Here's one. Let's see. This is from Sylvia. Sylvia, hi, I see you. Sylvia says, there's a scene in the grocery store. Oh, I know this scene that makes me cringe. What is the most uncomfortable situation you've ever encountered by being recognized? Oh, that's so cool, because that is what this book is about. Exactly. It's about sort of the price of fame and the vulnerability of fame and the cost of celebrity. I mean, Lily Atwood in her perfect life is much more famous than I'll ever be. But sure, I've been on television for 43 years. And people in New England recognize me. No matter where I go, they recognize me. And that adds a certain vulnerability to my life, and a certain bit of stress and tension. And that began actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that began when I first started in television in 1976, if you can believe it, is when I started in television. And I was at the laundromat doing my laundry. That's how glamorous it was. I was at the laundromat doing my laundry, and someone came up to me and said, "Aren't you Hank Phillippi from Channel 13? And I said, "Well, yes, and thank you." And she says, "Oh, well, let me tell you about myself, and let me tell you a little bit about a story that I want you to do for television." And at that moment, there's this interesting conflict, because she might have a really good story to tell me. This might be Watergate, and I'd love to hear that. I'm a reporter and I want to hear a good story. On the other hand, I'm at the laundromat just trying to do my laundry, and maybe she should have called me at work. But I'm a reporter, I'm fine, bring it on, just tell me the story. But when it was finished, in answer to your question, Sylvia, when it was finished, I went home and I called my mom, and I was whining. I was 26. I was whining. And I said, "Mom, can you believe it? Somebody came up to me at the laundromat and wanted to tell me a story." And I was looking for sympathy from my mom. I said, she wouldn't even leave me alone at the laundromat. And my mother paused for a moment. And then she says, "Sweetheart, you chose the spotlight. Welcome to the spotlight. And I never want to hear a complaint from you again." And that, that has really stayed with me. But the key in her perfect life, the thing that comes from, is that Lily chose the spotlight, and she knows the deal with being on television, and she knows the deal about being a public person. But her little daughter didn't choose the spotlight. Little 7-year-old Rowan didn't choose the spotlight. So how does she protect her daughter? How do any of us who have a professional career protect our family from the dangers that might ensue from what we do in our professional life? And the scene that Sylvia is remembering, and I thank you so much for your careful reading, because that was really a pivotal scene. Early in the book, Lily goes to the grocery store, as we all do, with her little daughter. And someone comes up to her in the grocery and says, "Oh, aren't you Lily Atwood?" And she says, "Yes." And the woman says, "I love you." And I have to say that people say that to me all the time. I mean, people who don't know me. And it's lovely, but it's a little scary, but it's lovely. And Lily's charming to her, as of course she would be. And then the woman says, "Can we take a picture together?" And Lily says, "Sure, I'm happy to take a picture with you, but not my daughter. Not my daughter." And she sort of scoots her little daughter behind her. And the woman says, "Oh," instantly turns on her. "Oh, you television people, you think you're better than everyone else." And whoosh, in one moment, with one wrong word, Lily has lost a viewer. And that's the tightrope that people walk who are on television, who are in the spotlight. I'm talking about movie stars and celebrities and all those kinds of people. Is their career depends on that people like them, right? And watch them, right? And one wrong word, one mistake, one wrong tweet, one wrong Facebook post, and you're toast. You are toast. And that's what I wanted to sort of show in this book about Lily Atwood. I'm going to look at your questions for a minute online. Emily's saying, problem is that love and adoration can turn on a dime. Absolutely so. And when your career depends on that, think about how stressful that would be and how much pressure that would be. I can divulge to you, if you don't tell anyone, I can divulge to you that when I'm walking down the corridor in a mall, remember malls when we used to go to malls, I actively put a pleasant expression on my face. So people don't think, oh, she's mean. She looks mean. She doesn't look happy. She must be upset. I wonder what's wrong in Hank's life. That, that kind of thing. So it's very interesting, the balance between wanting a viewer to know me and wanting to keep a little bit of distance. Okay, let's try another one. Shannon Hansen, Shanson is her nickname. I'd be shy to go up to someone famous in public unless it's at a signing. I wouldn't want to bother them. That is such a great question, because I will tell you that, famous people, I've interviewed many famous people, and they're very happy for you to say, oh, I loved you in whatever, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. That's great. They want to hear that. And then just let them go. But that adoration is something that they really search for. That's why they're movie stars, to get that acclaim. So it's a funny personality thing. Okay, so here's one of the questions I've asked. A book that changed your life. A book that changed your life. That's, let's say, I remember, I know what it was. When I was a little girl, I grew up in really rural Indiana, and I was such an outcast and such a miserable, bookish little girl. And I started reading mysteries. My sister and I would ride our ponies to the library, Carol. How about that? We would take books out of the library and put them in the saddlebags and read up in the hayloft of the barn behind our house. But book that changed my life, Murder on the Orient Express. I remember reading Murder on the Orient Express. You must raise your hand if you've read it. You have read Murder. Yes, of course you have. I see so many people have. And when I was a girl, I was 12 maybe, and I remember thinking, how did she do that? How did Agatha Christie do that? How did she come up with that surprising, amazing ending? And I didn't see that coming. I mean, even at 12, I thought, oh, I'm smart. I can figure out the Sherlock Holmes stories, so I'll be able to figure out these Agatha Christie stories. And it was a surprise. It was a surprise. And from that moment, I thought, maybe I'd like to be a mystery author. Maybe I would love to be able to create a story that would be surprising, that would leave clues and have people guessing, and in the end could just pull the rug out from under them. And wouldn't that be fun to do? But sort of part of me back then also thought maybe I'd like to be the detective. Maybe it would be more fun to be Poirot or Sherlock Holmes than to write about those kinds of people. So as an investigative reporter for 43 years and a crime fiction author for 15 years, I'm a little bit of each now. And I always think that's so funny. Emily says, House on the Strand by Daphne du Maurier was the book that started me on the mystery loving journey. Oh, that's interesting. And I've never read that. So maybe do you think that'll hold up? All of you who have read that, do you think that'll hold up? All right, so let's see here. Bonnie Jean is saying, do your characters ever get you to stray from your plot line? I'm looking for Bonnie Jean on camera here so I can talk to you. Okay, hey, thank you for waving. That's very helpful. Yeah, my characters, I love when they stray from my plot line, given that I don't have a plot line. I don't use an outline. I know. She's laughing. I don't use an outline when I write. I just have a good idea for a story. And then I sit down and I type chapter 1 and I say, okay, let's see what happens. And so when the characters take off, when they do things that I wouldn't have predicted, or, when the phone rings or somebody knocks on the door and I think somebody's knocking on the door, I wonder who that is. I find out when you find out. And when my characters start having agency and intention and start wanting something, that's when I know that the story is really taking off. So they're not straying from the plot line, Bonnie Jean, as much as they are making the plot line for me. If I'm lucky on my good writing days, that's what happens. And I want you to know that we're going to save this chat And so I will look at it after the event and we'll pick the winners from the chat afterwards. So as I said, somebody who orders Her Perfect Life from Toadstool tonight may get my entire backlist. Everybody who orders Her Perfect Life tonight will get a free paperback from me. And one lucky person here tonight will, no matter whether they order or not, will win the first to lie. One person will win the first to lie, just because I am so thrilled that you are here tonight. All right, so shall we find another question? I wish you were here to draw them for me. Tell about the first time you saw your first book. Oh, my first book was Prime Time, which I wrote without having any idea what I was doing, without having any idea about writing a book. And I remember when I got the idea for Prime Time, and I was at Channel 7, and I just had a really good idea. And I came home and I said to my husband, I've got a great idea for a novel. I'm going to write a book. And my husband says, great, honey. He says, and I'm like, how hard can it be? You know, I've read a million of them. And that was crazy. And I soon learned how hard it could be, of course. But that became Prime Time, which became my first novel, which won the Agatha. You see the teapots behind me? Those are the Agatha Awards. Those ceramic black teapots are the Agatha Awards that they give out at Malice Domestic for the best novel of the year and the best first novel of the year. And they're teapots because Malice Domestic honors traditional mysteries. And so they give a teapot. They say that you can use them, but I would never use mine. Anyway, when I saw, how your first books come is in a box, and you know it's your book, and I'm sure that some of you have had the same experience. The thought of, I know Tracy Clark is here. Hey, Tracy, whose book Runner is out now, her third, I think, in her Cass Rain series, marvelous detective fiction from Chicago. And I'm sure you've had the same experience, Tracy, when you open that first box. And then you open the sides, and then always it's double boxed. So you think it's going to be this big reveal, but then there's another box in the box. So then you have to open the other box. And then there is the book that, as I was saying, I know some of you have had the feeling of thinking, I wonder what it would be like to go into a library and see my book, or to go into a bookstore and see my book. And every single one of those emotions occurred when I saw my first book. I mean, I looked at the cover, I looked at the back, I looked at the inside, I looked at the print, I opened it to a random page, and I thought, this is a book, this is an actual book like all those other actual books that my actual author idols wrote, and here is one, and I love this. And it was unforgettable. And I have to tell you that I feel that same way about every book. It wasn't just the first book. I feel that same way about every book. Okay. Jay Collins is saying, just ordered this perfect book for my own, no more library copies. Oh, I love when there's a waiting list. I know you don't, but I love when there's a waiting list. This question is, what was the first thing you wrote? The first thing I wrote was Prime Time. I mean, when I was a little kid, I wasn't one of those little kids who wrote, I have so many friends. I think Karen Slaughter talks about this, and Megan Miranda talks about this, and Mary Kubica talks about this, that they wrote little books when they were like 5 or 10, and their mothers kept them. I didn't have any of that. I was a reader, not a writer. I didn't start writing. I mean, I started writing in college, but not fiction. And then I started really writing when I worked in politics in the early 70s. I wrote press releases. And that is how I learned to write, from writing press releases. And then I was a radio reporter, and then I was a television reporter, and then I was a writer for Rolling Stone magazine. And I sort of learned to write along the way, but that still wasn't fiction, right? That still wasn't fiction. So the first fiction I ever wrote was Prime Time, my first novel, which is pretty funny. Okay. How's this working? If you have questions, you put them in the chat, because I'd love to answer your questions. Love to answer your questions too. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm not going to look. I'm going to pull one out, and it is, how do you go undercover? Oh, this is from Carol. How do you go undercover if people recognize you? Yeah, that's a really good question. I have been a television reporter, as I said, for 43 years. I've wired myself with hidden cameras and gone undercover and in disguise. And it is increasingly difficult to do that. As I got known in television, it became a little bit more difficult for me to go undercover. But I have to tell you that you might be surprised at how different I can make myself look. I have one of the things that Her Perfect Life is based on is my going undercover in various places and how that feels to be undercover. And one of the things about that is that you really have to pretend that you are someone else. You really have to be the other person. It's brought to life completely in The First to Lie, which is completely someone going undercover and losing themselves undercover. And that's what you kind of have to do. There's about 90% of you that's the fake person, and you keep this little sliver of your real self just hovering in your brain long enough so you don't lose yourself totally. So if I go undercover, I have in the past, for instance, I put my hair on top of my head in a bouncy ponytail. I take off all my makeup. Trust me, you don't want to see that. I put on big glasses, no makeup. I put on like lots of sweatshirts. So my whole body style is different. I look like a different person altogether. And I change my voice. I can make myself have like a little voice like that, or I can talk like a Southerner a little bit, or I can be very, very brusque. And I also put on a different demeanor. I mean, when I talk to you, I sit like this. I'm expansive. I use my hands. I'm enthusiastic. I love talking to you. But I could, if I'm timid, and I can kind of go in like this. And you realize how if someone is wanting to be noticed, they can make themselves noticed. I mean, there are 35 little squares on the screen or something, and I want you to see me. Not just that I put my little cursor on it and make my name yellow, but I want you to see me. But if I didn't want you to see me, I would make myself small. And when you go to a public place and you look like you don't want to be noticed, that you're timid and shy and small, people just don't notice you. They just don't notice you. You can be so invisible by sort of just making yourself invisible. Sort of what I've learned about being undercover. I've only gotten caught twice undercover, and that was not because of what I looked like, but because my equipment gave me away. I was going inside a cult church to try to see what was happening inside the cult church, and I was really terrified because I didn't want to be brainwashed. I heard they brainwashed people, and I didn't know how exactly that worked. So I was trying to look vulnerable enough to be brainwashed, but not really vulnerable because I didn't really want to be brainwashed. And so back in the day that this took place, hidden cameras were not as small as they are now. Now I could be wearing a hidden camera right now. You would not know it. They are completely so tiny that you would never know, let alone all the cameras that are on our phones, right? How easy is that? But back then the cameras were handy cam size, just like a regular handy cam that anybody would have. So I would take a purse, like a shoulder bag, and cut a hole in the side of the purse, a hole like this size for the lens. And then you turn the camera on record, stick the camera in the shoulder bag, shove the lens through the hole. So you can envision this now. Then you would put the camera over your shoulder with the lens showing, and then tie a scarf around the strap of the camera and let the fluttering ends of the scarf go over the lens. Can you envision what I'm talking about? So you see somebody with a bag with a scarf tied over it, and you don't know that there's a rolling camera in the bag. So the key was that when you moved the scarf away from the lens, if someone was looking at it in the wrong way or the right way, you could see there was a camera in the purse, that's just a lens sticking out or something really weird. So I'm inside this cult church, and they're handing out lemonade, and I have my little dowdy, unassuming dress on, and my shoulder bag with the scarf, and I'm moving the scarf to shoot and then putting the scarf over the lens when I get a little bit afraid, and I'm moving the scarf to shoot and then putting it back over the lens. And you could always tell how scared I was by how many pictures of my hand I had, that I was hiding the camera lens. So I have to tell you that this is the old pride goeth kind of thing, is that I started thinking how great the video I was getting. It was wonderful video. And I started thinking about what I was going to wear to the Emmys. And that was when I made my fatal error. So I'm thinking about how good I was. And I feel this tap on my shoulder. And a man came up to me and said, "What's that in your bag?" And I was really caught. I was totally caught. So I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I drew myself up to my full height and I said, "You are making me very uncomfortable. Am I going to have to report you to security?" And I thought, maybe this guy's security. I don't know who security is anyway. And I'm threatening this person. I don't even know who he is. But you know what? He just backed off and I skedaddled out of there with my good video. And we did win an Emmy. But that was quite scary, because taking a hidden camera undercover into a place is not illegal. In Massachusetts, you can tape someone with the hidden camera as long as there's no sound. You can't tape someone's voice, but you can tape their picture. So I wasn't doing anything illegal, but I was doing something that whoever was in charge of that cult church would not have been pleased about. And so luckily, I got away with it. I got away with it that time. And the other time I got caught was when I had a photographer carrying the hidden camera, and we were going into a used auto parts store to do a story about that. And so I said to my photographer, "I'll go in and I'll pretend to be looking at used auto parts or whatever it was. And then you come in and you pretend to be my husband and you carry the hidden camera, but just hide it, hide it when you come in. Okay, hide it. Don't let it show." So this photographer and I, we had never worked together before. So he says, "Okay." So I go in and I'm looking at auto parts. And I said to him, "You're going to pretend to be my husband, but just don't let them see the camera. Hide the camera." Okay. So I'm looking at spark plugs or whatever, and my colleague walks in, and he's carrying a clipboard. I'm trying to describe this to you. He's carrying a clipboard, and then underneath it, the clipboard is on top of the hidden camera. So it's like if I said, "Don't let anybody see the paperback," and he's carrying it like this. Like, yeah, he can't see it, but everybody else can see it. He was hiding it from himself, which was not quite clear on the concept of the hidden camera. You're not supposed to hide it from yourself. You're supposed to hide it from the other guy. So, the proprietor, who didn't know we were together, luckily, said, "Get that camera out of here." And I acted like I was all afraid. And the guy ran out, and we didn't even do that story. That was such a pitiful disaster. So those are a couple of my hidden camera stories, all based on disguising myself. Carol is saying, "I imagine that acting lessons would come in handy for undercover work." Yeah, I've never taken acting lessons, but they would come in handy for undercover work, and they also come in handy for writing, because when I'm writing a character, I really am doing what some people call method acting. I'm making myself be the character. So when I'm writing Lily, I'm sure I have good posture, and I'm thinking Lily thoughts and having Lily words. And when I'm writing, little Rowan, I make myself be 7, and I think about what a 7-year-old would say, what a 7-year-old would think. Or the mysterious Cassie, when I'm writing the character of Cassie, I become Cassie. I figure out what she wants. I try to tap into Cassie's brain and see what Cassie would see through her eyes. So again, it is a method of acting, just like going undercover is definitely a method of acting. Okay. Okay, I don't know why this comes up. I don't know why this comes up at events, but the question is, what was your first pet? What was your first pet? Okay, my first pet. My first pet was, we lived in Indiana, in Zionsville, Indiana. Is anybody from Indiana? We lived in Indiana. And my first pet was a dog, an Irish setter named Rusty. We were very clever to name the Irish setter Rusty. Then we had another Irish setter named Penny. Then my pony was named Cadet, and my sister's pony was named Sable. And then we had a cat named Mrs. Purdy. And then we had other cats who were F. Scott and Zelda. And then we had another cat named Rosemary, and then Rosemary had kittens, and those were all Rosemary's babies. We had gerbils that were named Chet and David after Chet Huntley and David Brinkley, but then Mrs. Purdy ate them, so they came to a very bad end. I know. Bonnie Jean is astonished. Yep, I'm sorry, but that's nature, and that somebody let them out of the cage. I don't know how that happened. Okay. We had a lot of pets. Okay, this says audience. So if there's an audience question, I will answer that next. I don't see one. Oh, Katie. Hi, Katie, who writes her own books too. Did you know who would end up being the evil one when you started? No, I never know who's good or who's bad when I start. And that is pretty interesting for me, that process of figuring out who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. I don't even know what the bad thing that happens is. I don't know who's going to get killed, and I don't know why, and I don't know who did it. All those things evolve as the book evolves. So I'm at 66,000. No. I did some more work this week. I'm at 76,000 words of my new book. Yay. And thank you. Yeah, Katie, you're applauding, and someday soon, Bonnie Jean too, someday soon, we will applaud the final book. It is going to be close to the deadline. But I don't quite know what's happening in that book yet. And I'm waiting for the moment, possibly tomorrow, when all that will coalesce. Don't forget, leave a comment if you want to be entered to win the first to lie. Just leave a comment, or just say hi, or just say that you're happy to be here, or just say where you're from or what kind of books you like. Somebody who doesn't buy a book will win the first edition of The First to Lie. And if you buy Her Perfect Life from Toadstool tonight, someone will win my entire backlist, and I will get that name from Toadstool. And everybody who buys Her Perfect Life tonight will get a paperback book from me. So don't forget to do that. No pressure. It is just my career and Toadstool Books' existence. So don't want to put any pressure on you, but just that's what it is. P. Donahue is applauding. Thank you. All right. That is a book question I already answered. Let's see what this one is. How does your journalism experience influence your fiction writing? Yeah, that's a really good question, because it is unbelievably connected. And I am so lucky that I started as a journalist before writing fiction, because the two processes are so unbelievably similar. Because writing a novel needs to have a beginning, middle, and end. So does an investigative story. An investigative story has a character who you care about, and a problem that needs to be solved, an important problem that needs to be solved. You want the good guys to win and the bad guys to get what's coming to them, right? And in the end, you want some justice, and you want to change the world a little bit. And whether I'm doing investigative reporting or whether I'm writing crime fiction, that's the same. It's exactly the same. The only thing there's the deadlines that are the same. There's the promotion that's the same. There's the public speaking, that's the same. There's the storytelling, that's the same. Wow, it's all about telling a good story. I mean, we say this in journalism, wow, that was a heck of a story. And that's exactly what we're going for in crime fiction as well, in domestic suspense, in psychological suspense. Ooh, that's a good story. I mean, I don't want you to turn the channel when my stories are on TV. And I want you to miss your stop on the subway, right, on the T when you're reading my books. I want them to be absolutely rivetingly, page-turningly, unput-downable books, and I want my stories on television to be like little compelling movies, stories that change your life, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. The thing that's different, of course, is that in writing crime fiction, I realized that I was going to have to, after 30 years of absolutely telling the facts, I was going to have to make stuff up. I was going to be able to make stuff up or be required to make stuff up, because my novels are not my television stories made into fiction. They're new stories. They're a little bit of this and a little bit of that, just like a Rubik's Cube. You take a little bit of one experience and a little bit of another experience and twist and polish and change and make it into a different story altogether. And it has been, I wondered if I could make things up. I wondered if my imagination would work to let me make things up. And one of the joys of my life has been how wonderful that has been. Is winning an Emmy always a good thing? Is winning an Emmy always a good thing? Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. Sure. Winning an Emmy is always a fantastic thing. It means that you've done a story well. It means that laws have changed or lives have changed. I mean, we've gotten several laws changed as a result of our stories. We've gotten millions of dollars in refunds and restitution for consumers. We've gotten people's homes out of foreclosure. We've changed laws and changed lives, and it's really made a difference. But whoever asked that question, it's a really good question, because every one of those Emmys that Carol was talking about, 37 times, every one of those Emmys represents a secret that someone didn't want you to know, right? A secret that someone would rather have had me or Lily Atwood with all of her Emmys, a secret that someone didn't want Lily to tell. And every one of those secrets results in an enemy. There's someone who doesn't like me, who hates me possibly as a result of the Emmy that I won. And there are certainly people who hate Lily Atwood as a result of the stories that she's done. So that's another thing that I wanted to bring out in Her Perfect Life. Yes, you're doing good as being a reporter, but the dominoes that fall as a result of what you do could also be truly dangerous. And I see Kathy has raised her hand. That's what, if you don't know about the reaction little guy in the bottom, if you click on reactions at the bottom part of your screen, hover over it and click reactions, you can raise your hand and it moves you right to the top of my screen, and I will see you and listen to your question. Kathy, turn on your microphone and ask. Welcome. Great.
I was just going to ask if your books are standalone, or do you need to read them in a sequence?
Oh, that's a great question, and thank you so much for asking it. That is wise and helpful. Her Perfect Life is a standalone. You know, a standalone being the most important thing that ever happened in these characters' life. If you ever wanted to meet Lily and Greer and Rowan, this is the only time you will ever meet them. Her Perfect Life, a fully formed story. The First to Lie, which somebody tonight will win, is also a standalone. Trust Me and The Murder List are also standalones. Trust Me, my first psychological thriller, and The Murder List, which won the Anthony for Best Novel of the Year. Those are all standalones. My other books, and I'll just show you examples of them. This is one of the Charlotte McNally books. This is FaceTime, a Book Sense notable book. That is part of a 4-part series. And this is Say No More. This is book 5 in the Jane Ryland series. So the Charlotte McNally series stars Charlotte McNally, an investigative reporter in Boston who fears she's getting too old for television. I scraped the bottom for that main character. The Jane Ryland series stars Jane Ryland, a newspaper reporter in Boston, and also stars Jake Brogan, the coolest police detective in Boston. These are both series, but I wrote them as standalones. So this is the 5th in the series. You can read it first and it doesn't matter. So essentially the Jane Ryland series, the Charlotte McNally series, and everything else is a standalone. Good question. Thank you so much. And you can read them all in any order. All right, who we have, we're running out of time, I know, Carol. Do we have time for one or two more questions? What do you think? Yep, okay, good. Let's see here. Who is the most famous person? Who is the most famous person you have ever interviewed? Who is the most famous person you have ever interviewed? Well, Prince Charles, I think, is the most famous person I know, the most famous person I've ever interviewed. It wasn't a very long interview, and he wasn't going to be very revealing to me, and I was probably pretty tongue-tied. Plus, he's shorter than I am, but so handsome. I have to tell you, when I met him, it was in the 90s, in the 80s. Very exclusive interview, and that was fun, and he was cool. I know. Oh, says Katie. Also, I've interviewed Klaus von Bülow. He was very interesting. Do you remember the Klaus von Bülow, the Sonny von Bülow murder trial? I covered that trial and interviewed him. He was sinister. He was really sinister. When I worked for Rolling Stone magazine, I interviewed a lot of people, Dustin Hoffman and Sybil Shepherd, Warren Beatty, kind of movie star music types. I'm trying to think of who other famous people. As soon as this meeting is over, I'm going to think of a million famous people. But that's Diane Sawyer. Who would you think is famous? Lee Child. I forgot about book people. I've interviewed Lee Child, and last week James Patterson interviewed me. Is that not crazy? Were any of you there? I had interviewed him. You were. Oh, I love this. You too, Bonnie, Jean, and Katie. Wasn't he amazing? He was amazing. He's funny and smart and charming and great. When I was guest of honor at BoucherCon, whatever year that was, 2 years ago, were you there, Vicki, at BoucherCon? And you were. And I interviewed him. We were both guests of honor at BoucherCon, and we had such a good time. And he said to me, next time, when your next book is out, I'm going to interview you. And I said, no, no, you're not. And he said, yeah, I'm going to. I insist. And he called me and he said, when's our interview? I'm interviewing you for Her Perfect Life. And in front of hundreds of people who came to the event, I mean, hundreds. He held up the book. I have a picture of it. He held up the book and said, I love this book. It's absolutely fabulous, and proceeded to talk about it. I mean, clearly really read it. And that was quite astonishing. He has sold more books than anybody in the world. So I guess that's about as famous. In our milieu as you can get, right? I interviewed Jimmy Carter as well when I was working in Atlanta as a reporter. Really sweet one-on-one interview out at the Carter Center. And he was just the most charming, lovely, knowledgeable person ever. That was a great interview. What was your favorite class in high school? What was my favorite class in high school? My favorite class in high school was English, absolutely so. And my favorite class in college, I majored in Shakespeare in college. Much to my parents' chagrin, they're like, what are you going to do with that, honey? You are absolutely unemployable. They were very unhappy about that, but that has served me well. I'm going to take one last question. It's 7:51. We've gone on long enough. Do you all have any other questions? I don't want to just, I see Shannon has her cat, and I saw Bonnie Jean has a cat. This is great. So it's people and cats. We love that. Yeah. Hey, sweetheart. What has been the highlight of your writing career? Every day. I mean, this is a highlight of my writing career. This is 30 people and 2 cats. It doesn't really get better than that. I love that. I think the moment winning the Mary Higgins Clark Award and having it be presented by Mary Higgins Clark herself, the doyenne of us all, she was quite astonishing, and I think of her every day. But I do think that the moment that I remember was when Primetime, my first book, first came out. And I was at some event, I think Crime Bake in New England, the New England Crime Bake, which is a convention of readers and authors. lovely. I'm guest of honor at this year's Crime Bake. We'll see if it actually happens in real life. I don't think so. Might be just virtual. Anyway, so I was at Crime Bake the year that Prime Time came out, and I was sitting at one of the banquet tables in the dining room, and I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I looked up, and there was Sue Grafton. There was Sue Grafton holding my book Primetime, holding Primetime. And she asked me to autograph her book. Sue Grafton asked me to autograph her book, and that was crazy. And luckily, there was someone there who happened to take a photo of the moment that I turned around and realized that it was Sue Grafton. And there is this fabulous photo, I'm sure it's on Facebook, this fabulous photo of me just in utter hilarity, just my head back through, in delight and laughter, because my idol, my total life idols, Sue Grafton, had asked for my autograph. And I really think that is a moment that I hope I never, ever forget. She was quite amazing. And this is a good way to close also, because Sue Grafton used to call it the magic, that writing a book, writing a novel was absolutely magic. I could not agree with her more. I absolutely feel so connected to her from that, and I will never forget that. And on that note, I will remind you that hurry to leave a comment to win the first to lie. Hurry to order Her Perfect Life to get a free paperback, or possibly my entire backlist. I will get your name from the chat, which we will copy is the word I'm looking for so unsuccessfully. Can you copy it? Carol, at the library, you can copy the chat and get the names, because I don't want to lose this.
Yes, I can save it.
Okay, save it. That's
and I
what
just put the link in the chat to
Okay.
Toadstool for ordering.
Perfect. So in closing, before I toss it back to Carol, let me just thank you so immensely and endlessly for coming tonight. It's been such a joy to see you all. I hope you will follow me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and follow me on Instagram. If you come to my website and click on contact on my website, you can send me an email directly to me, and it doesn't go through any middle person. It comes directly to me. So I would love to hear from you, what you're reading, what you're caring about, what you're thinking about, how you love Her Perfect Life. If you don't love it, just don't tell me. Okay, just don't tell me. But again, so much joy to you all, and thank you, Toadstool, and thank you, Nashua Public Library, and thank you all for being here tonight. It's a joy to see you.
And thank you so much, Hank. This was really fun. This was a great thing. And as I said earlier, I will send out a link to the recording soon. So if you have friends who couldn't be here, they can watch that. You can watch it again. So I think we're good.
And I will contact you. We will pick the winners after this is over from the chat. We will contact you. Good luck to all of you. Many of you are going to get a wonderful surprise. So thank you.
Chat is disabled.
I'm sorry?
Chat is disabled.
Chat is disabled. Oh, right now it is. Okay, so can you put it back, Carol?
Yeah, I noticed that earlier and I couldn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Just a minute. I didn't.
If you can't undisable it, whatever word that would be, here's my email, my direct personal email, and it's very easy. It's HRyan, HRYAN. There it is back. Can everybody see that now?
Can you work it now?
I'm going to put my
Yes.
technology, never a dull moment. I'm going to put that's my email, my direct personal email. So if you want to order a book and you've had trouble doing it via the link in the chat, just email me and I will send you the link. And we will make this as easy as we can for you.
Maybe you could just say your email address in case people are missing your chat.
Yes, it's HRYAN, like Hank Ryan, HRYAN. You know what I'm going to do? This is going to be very high level. I'm going to rename my photo. See if this works. How about that?
Great.
Now that is my email. And thank you so much. Barbara is saying thank you for your time, always so interesting. Emily is saying great event as always. Scott is saying thank you. Bonnie saying I'm ordering the book as we speak. That's lovely. Barbara, yes, it's back. Hi, Barbara. I didn't see that you were here. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. Katie saying thank you for this wonderful event. Michael, nice to see you. Enjoyed presentation. Well done. Ruth is saying delightful presentation. Sylvia, thank you for, I can't read all these. I'm going to look at them afterward. I'm so pleased that you all are here tonight. We figured this out, this order thing. You're going to email me. You're going to click through the chat, and we will all move on to the rest of our evening. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
everybody. Good night.
Aye.